It was raining that morning. One of those gray, merciless rains that soak everything and everyone, no matter how tightly you cling to your umbrella or your hope. The city of Karachi looked tired, like it hadn't slept in weeks. Cars crawled through puddles. People hurried under coats, and amidst that chaos, a woman stood outside a tall glass building, holding the tiny hand of a girl no older than 5. Her shoes were worn, her coat too thin for the cold, but her eyes carried something that refused to die: hope. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of humanity, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Single Sun Stories. Every click helps us continue telling stories that warm hearts and remind us that goodness still exists in this world. Her name was Sarah Malik, once a confident marketing executive at a mid-level firm, now a struggling single mother barely managing to keep the lights on. Her husband had left 3 years ago, vanishing overnight with no goodbye, no money, and no remorse. Since then, Sarah had lived in a small one-room apartment in the older part of the city with her daughter, Lily. Life was a chain of unpaid bills, late rent notices, and the constant ache of pretending to be strong for a child who didn't yet understand what broken meant. Today was her last shot, an interview for a junior assistant position at Zenith Corporation, one of the most powerful companies in Karachi. The salary wasn't much, but it promised stability, a roof, food, and maybe, just maybe, a real future for her little girl. But the morning had not gone her way. Her babysitter canceled at the last minute, her bus broke down halfway, and now she was standing at the entrance of the corporate tower, drenched and anxious, clutching her daughter's hand. When she reached the front desk, she whispered her name, embarrassed to explain that her child was with her. The receptionist frowned but eventually handed her a visitor badge. As Sarah walked through the shining hallways lined with glass offices and portraits of smiling executives, she felt more out of place than ever. Her coat dripped rainwater onto the polished marble floor, and her daughter's small shoes squeaked with every step. She wanted to disappear. The meeting room was on the 14th floor. The walls were glass, the view breathtaking, but Sarah didn't notice any of it. Her heart pounded as she sat down. Lily climbed onto the chair beside her, swinging her legs innocently, oblivious to her mother's trembling hands. A few minutes later, the door opened, and a tall man in a crisp gray suit walked in. Mr. Adrian Blake, the CEO himself. His reputation was legendary, ruthless, brilliant, the kind of man who could make or break a career with a single glance. He stopped mid-step when he saw the little girl sitting there. His expression changed from professional composure to quiet surprise. Then in a calm voice, he asked, "You brought your daughter?" Sarah froze, her throat tightening. "I'm so sorry, sir," she stammered. "The babysitter canceled at the last minute, and I didn't want to miss this interview. I know it's unprofessional, and I completely understand if—" But he raised a hand gently, silencing her apology. His eyes, sharp but not unkind, shifted to the child who was now playing with the edge of her mother's resume folder. Something softened in his face, something human. He walked over, crouched down to Lily's level, and asked softly, "What's your name, little one?" "Lily," she said shyly, her voice like the faintest bell. "That's a beautiful name," he said, smiling faintly. Then he stood and gestured toward the table. "Let's begin." For the next 30 minutes, Sarah answered every question she could, trying to focus through the weight of exhaustion and fear. Her daughter colored quietly on a notepad the receptionist had given her. The CEO listened carefully, not just to her words, but to her story written between the lines. He noticed the way her fingers trembled when she talked about her experience, the way her eyes flickered toward her daughter as if measuring every sentence by how it might affect her child's future. When the interview ended, Sarah gathered her papers, heart sinking. She couldn't tell what he thought. CEOs were impossible to read. She managed a small smile and thanked him for his time, then took her daughter's hand and turned to leave. But as she reached the door, his voice stopped her. "Mrs. Malik," he said, "could you wait a moment?" Sarah turned, clutching Lily's small hand tighter. The CEO walked toward his desk, picked up the phone, and made a short call. After a minute, he hung up and looked at her again. "You'll start on Monday," he said simply. Her breath caught. I got the job?" she whispered, disbelief flooding her eyes. "Yes," he said with quiet certainty. "And I'll arrange flexible hours for you. You'll be able to pick up your daughter from school. We'll also set up a small playroom near your department, just in case." Sarah couldn't speak. She felt the tears rising, uninvited and uncontrollable. "I don't know what to say, sir," she whispered, her voice breaking. He smiled faintly. "Just say you'll do your best. That's all I need." As she left the building, the rain had stopped. The city, moments ago gray and lifeless, now glistened under a soft sunlight breaking through the clouds. It felt like the world was breathing again, or maybe it was just her. Days turned into weeks. Sarah proved herself quickly. She was sharp, creative, and dependable. Her co-workers admired her work ethic, her kindness, and the calm grace with which she handled everything, from deadlines to her daughter's occasional visits. She didn't know it, but the CEO watched quietly from afar, not in a cold, distant way, but with an unspoken respect for a woman who refused to surrender to life's cruelty. Then one afternoon, an unexpected email arrived, a notice for an internal pitch competition. The winner would lead a new project that could change the company's future. Sarah hesitated. It felt out of reach, but that night as she tucked Lily into bed, her daughter whispered, "Mommy, you always tell me to be brave, so you should be brave too." Those words stayed with her. The next morning she applied. Weeks of sleepless nights followed, planning, preparing, rehearsing. She poured everything she had into her proposal. Late nights, borrowed laptops, coffee that never seemed strong enough. And finally, the day came. When she stood before the executives, her heart was steady. She spoke from her soul and about resilience, about loyalty, about second chances. She told them how businesses weren't just built on profit, but on people. And as she spoke, she saw the CEO's expression shift again. The same quiet admiration from that rainy morning, only deeper now. When the results came in, Sarah had won. Her project became one of the company's most successful ventures. Months later, during a staff event at the company's Karachi headquarters, she found herself standing beside Mr. Blake. They watched employees laugh and mingle, the air filled with joy. He turned to her and said quietly, "You know, the day you came here, everyone told me not to hire you. They said you were a risk. But I saw something different. I saw someone who wouldn't give up no matter what." Sarah smiled softly, eyes glistening. "Thank you, sir," she said, "for believing in me when I didn't even believe in myself." He looked at her daughter, now happily chasing balloons across the hall. "No," he said, "you believed. You just needed someone to remind you that you still could." Months passed and Sarah's life slowly transformed. She moved into a better home, enrolled Lily in a good school, and even began mentoring other single mothers who struggled like she once did. Her story spread through the company, a quiet legend of courage, faith in the power of one act of compassion. Years later, when people asked the CEO why he had taken a chance on her, he would always smile and say, "Because sometimes the most extraordinary employees don't come dressed in perfection. They come carrying their battles and winning them every day." And in that simple truth was a lesson for everyone. Kindness doesn't weaken leadership. It defines it. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Single Sun Stories. Your support helps us share more real emotional stories that celebrate humanity, hope, and second chances. Special request. Tell us in the comments, what would you have done if you were the CEO that day?